Hello and welcome to another video from Flash Jazz Cat. And as you can see, we've got an enormous box on the desk here, and I'm going to open this box and I'm not even going to tell you what it is. So without further ado, let's get the Stanley knife out and see what we're dealing with here. I'm assured it's going to be an extremely pleasant surprise. Well, not surprise, I mean I know what's in it, but sorry if my voice sounds a bit off. I'm coming out the other end of a extremely nasty cold. Rather unseasonal for me because I normally just get one at Christmas. So hopefully this one was it for the year. Anyway, let's get inside here. Obviously it's going to be extremely well packed as per usual. Try and get this properly in frame for you. Dump that on the floor. Upgrades. Get into that in a minute. More bubble wrap. Can you tell what it is yet? No, it probably wasn't a good reference, was it? Oh dear me. Right, so at least I can get rid of this one. Oh god, it's cold. Ooh, Atari, what a surprise. Ooh, there we go, we're in. So as you can see, this is an Atari 600XL. But the interesting thing about this one is that not only is it in the original packaging, but it was never before used before the owner, the client, bought it and opened it up. So this is going to be the second time, essentially, that this machine has been released from its retail packaging. So that's rather nice, considering it's over 40 years old at this point. Right. Oh dear me. Here we go, the big reveal. But first, a word from our video sponsor, PCBWE. Now, PCBWE have over 11 years of experience in the realm of PCB prototyping and production. They have a marvellous instant quote system, and not only do they do PCBs, but they do CNC and 3D printing, and even flexible PCBs, which they call FPC Rigid Flex. Now, since you're watching this video, you're probably interested in Atari stuff, and if you search for Atari on the PCBWE community site, you'll find all kinds of open source projects which you can order, including things like the Atari UGV2 video board, and even a Side 3 cartridge if you're masochistic enough to get involved in that. So if you're in need of a prototype PCB, or you can use any of the other facilities on offer, pop down to PCBWE today. There it is. So obviously the non-essential items like the power brick and whatnot aren't included. Oh, and it's still got the lovely polythene bag around it. Oh. Right, so we've got rid of all the bulky packaging so we can actually get into the machine now. Good old look. Oh, yes. I mean, it's not immediately obvious to me that it wouldn't necessarily degrade in some sense just sitting in the box for 40 years, but this is genuinely, apart from the owner himself, untouched by human hands. Absolutely pristine. I've had some box 600XLs before. Sadly, I wasn't able to keep the boxes because I didn't have room at the old house, so I had to dispose of them, which is a bit of a shame. But none that looked quite as factory fresh as this, because it is basically factory fresh. It's absolutely remarkable. Of course, when I come to take it apart, nevertheless, I bet the sticky tape on the flex cable, the keyboard flex cable, which has gone all gooey and horrible, so there will be some sort of cleanup operation here. I'm assuming that the owner has, I think he has actually removed the protective film on the brightware, because it's a bad idea to leave that on for long periods of time. That protective film, if it's left on these keys for like 4 decades, good luck getting it off, and it just ends up making the situation worse. But I mean, the keyboard's got no signs of, doesn't even got any finger cheese on it. The lettering on the keys is perfect. There's no marks or anything on the case. There's no discoloration. And there's the label for you label aficionados out there. There's our label. I don't think it's going to be a Chelco. Well, it's a PAL machine anyway, so I don't think it's going to be a Chelco board. No, because the Chelco machines, you can always spot them because of the screws. Actually, they've got larger screw heads. That's an easy way to tell a Chelco from the outside, but I mean, it's just gorgeous, and it does work. I suppose I should power it on in its stock condition, shouldn't I? Now, of course, with this being a stock 600XL, all we're going to get out of it at the moment is composite video, because there is no Luma Chroma connections at all on the motherboard. So let's just select the correct source. There we go. Give the monitor a couple of seconds to warm up because it needs recapping. Let's get the view right here. Okay, and let's power on. There we go. And I mean, the picture quality is absolutely atrocious. Although it would be perfectly good with a simple fix. You just have to remove one capacitor on the board and that image quality will be completely transformed. And of course we can add Luma and Chroma as well for even more clarity. So the video, it looks bad at the moment, but it will be a lot better after we've done some minor modifications. You can get a better idea. It's a bit hazy. It's very blurred. That's the fault of that capacitor. Check the keyboard. Keyboard works. Magic. Fantastic. So there we go. So it does work. Of course, it's got 16K at the moment. And I had quite the time actually getting hold of some 41464 RAM chips for this machine. I'd run out of them because I go through quite a lot of them. I've got loads and loads of the original 8K chips, but the 32K chips, they're a little bit harder to source now. I've eventually found some on eBay, 8 for 10. I hope they're going to be okay. They took a while to get here as well, which held me up, and then of course I was held up thereafter by the fact I got this horrible cold, which laid me up for a week. I didn't really feel like doing anything at all. I couldn't speak for coughing. Previously I ordered some on eBay, the usual thing, a picture of 2 chips. I think I paid about £8 or something for 2 bloody chips. And of course, when it turned up, it was 1 chip, which is absolutely useless. Of course, I looked more closely at the listing. It did say 1 chip. Very underhanded advertising, but there you go. I can hear you screaming at the screen, or you're going to in a minute, because we're going to upgrade this machine. And that's going to cause a lot of you a lot of ethical problems, I'm sure, but this is what I've been asked to do anyway, so this is what we're going to do. So it's a lovely original untouched 600XL, but it isn't going to be original untouched for long. Now of course I do have ethics myself as well, but there are things I wouldn't do to this machine, but of course when I upgrade stuff I try to be as sensitive as I can to the aesthetic, the original aesthetic of the computer, which I think is very important, increasingly so as time goes on. Let's have a look and see what we've got. Right, so all that box has got in it is a VBXE, that's it. And nice the way that the VBXE adapter doesn't match the colour of the board now. They've got a white adapter and a black board. Nice touch.
Fuck's sake.
Lathara continues to impress me with his amazing customer service skills, judging by some emails I've received, especially from American customers. But yes, I think Lathara likes to project his ideology and his ethical worldview onto the customer, and if the customer happens to be in the wrong country, there'll be problems. So in this box anyway, we've got Ultimate 1MB, the cabling there, purple Ultimate 1MB. We've got no legacy video upgrade because I think I said it's just not necessary with this machine. The video will be perfectly good when I've made a little modification to it. And the most interesting thing for me in this little box here is this, which is a PokeyMAX 4, which I've never ever had my hands on yet. I've had PokeyMAX 2, PokeyMAX 3, PokeyMAX, you name it, but never a PokeyMAX 4. Nobody so fit to send one in. I suppose there was no reason to now. I'm assuming the API, which enables the Ultimate 1MB PokeyMAX plugin to work, has not changed. I'll be very disappointed if it has, but I'm assuming this just drops in and still works the way it did before. So that's PokeyMAX 4. There are fewer connections here, seemingly, so I'll be interested to reacquaint myself with a pinout for this thing. But this won't have been cheap, I'm sure. I've seen one on sale on eBay for about 130 quid. Somebody on Atari Age, an American, said that he'd approached the eBay seller who was in Germany requesting that he ship it over to the States if he bought it, and the seller said that can't be done. I think what the seller actually means is that he won't ship it to America. He just for some reason doesn't choose to participate in whatever import and export requirements are present at the moment. But there we are anyway, so I'm quite excited to have one of these in my hands finally. And there's a closer look at the purple Ultimate 1MB board that's going to go in. So the most intrusive modification we're going to do here is probably the VBXE, because that's going to require a video jack on the back of the machine, which will replace the RF modulator. A few things have been produced to try and alleviate the requirement to cut a hole in the case. So if we look at the back of the machine here, we're looking at this area here. Now, there were a few things were produced that allowed you to use some sort of solution that put a tiny little jack there, which would mean you wouldn't have to drill the case at all or enlarge that hole. But personally, I don't have a problem with it. I don't think it's particularly egregious to take this thing out and replace it with another connector that looks exactly like these ones. It just looks like it could have come out of the factory that way. Now, I do appreciate, having said that, it might look nice and it might look fine and it might be totally acceptable to me, but from a collector standpoint, this is going to completely ruin the machine in terms of desirability and originality, in my opinion. Because in the future, in another 10, 20 years, 25 years, when people are looking for vintage Ataris, this would have been exactly what they were looking for. This machine, untouched, still in the box. Having said that, of course, I mean, what's the point of having a machine that's untouched and in the box? You can't see it, you can't use it, you can't touch it. And in its original configuration, the 600XL isn't particularly usable. You could certainly get away without putting the VBXE in the machine at all. I don't think the VBXE is an essential upgrade in this machine, but it's what the customer wants, so that's what I'm going to install. Were it not for that, the Ultimate would go in, the PokeyMAX would go in, and we'd do a very unintrusive modification to the original video output, and that would be that. But even then, you've got foreign parts inside the computer. Of course, first thing we're gonna do is upgrade the machine to 64K. And really, if you did that and did the video modification, you've immediately got a usable 64K 8-bit Atari. From my point of view, the must-have upgrade is this one, because it improves the machine dramatically. More memory, Sparta-DOS X, high-speed SIO, the ability to run one of the multi-carts like Side 3 as a hard disk. So anyway, let's take it apart. Now, one slightly unusual thing about this particular machine is that the bottom RF shield was adhered to the bottom of the motherboard by some tape, which turned out to be tape that was meant to secure the cardboard insulating layer between the bottom of the motherboard and the lower shield. So as you can see here, I've had to actually get a screwdriver into the gap there to pry the two apart along its length, because I don't know if the tape was actually supposed to protrude beyond the edge of the cardboard sheet, but it has in this case anyway, and it's stuck the front of the shield to the front of the motherboard. So as you can see, I've had to split them apart, and there you go, off it comes. And it left some tape on the bottom of the motherboard around the edge there. And so I don't know if that tape was meant to stick the cardboard to the shield or the shield to the bottom of the motherboard at the front. I'm not too sure. I mean, the bottom shield's held to the top with screws anyway, which I've taken out, and as you can see, I'm having a bit of a time. Well, clearly, as you can see, now that I look at the footage again, you can see that the tape, since there's a piece of tape in the middle of the cardboard, it was obviously put there to stick the cardboard to the bottom shield, and the fact that it ended up sticking the shield to the bottom of the motherboard appears to be accidental and inadvertent. And here we are with the finished upgraded motherboard. As I say, excuse the voice, I'm still recovering from this cold, unfortunately. Still a little bit congested. But I'm quite pleased with the way this one's turned out, and the reason I've got the camera at such a low angle is because the whole thing is very low profile. With these newer Ultimate 1MB boards, with the battery being on the top now here, we can really mount the board very, very low down, and that's a big advantage, especially on the 600XL, where keyboard clearance over these IDC connectors here is often a problem. That's why I typically leave the strain relief clips off these cables here, and I've done so with this installation. But after the fact, I also decided to cut down these standoffs a little bit more to get the whole thing super low down, so the top of the board's resting on the top of the hearting connector here, and I'm quite pleased with how that's turned out. I haven't test fitted it in the case yet with the keyboard on, so it remains to be seen how well things will fit, it has to be said. But let's have a closer look at what's actually being done. So here's the top view of the board. Obviously we've got VBXE, Ultimate 1MB and PokeyMAX 4. Now, I'm quite excited about the PokeyMAX 4 because I've never had one in my hands before, and it was an interesting process as far as the wiring's concerned, because it is totally different to the prior versions. I googled a wiring plan for this board, and the first hit was the PDF on the Retronics website. I've got to say, at first I was a little bit worried about this arrangement here. All the address line inputs, which are sourced from some handy vias that are underneath the Ultimate 1MB board here. So we've got A4 through A7 coming out on this little wire here around the back of the board and going into this block. So this is a 2x5 connector here, and we've got the 4 address lines on the front 4 pins, and we've got GTIE audio in and SIO audio in as well. So we've got a wire coming from pin 11 of the SIO connector coming in here. So for the first time you'll get, or for the first time as far as I'm aware with any stereo upgrade commonly available, you'll get SIO audio in, so there's an analog audio source which you can feed into the SIO port, and that will come out through the stereo mix from this board. That never used to happen. No board really accounted for that before. So what would tend to happen if you were using the stereo audio output and you had audio coming in, you just wouldn't hear it through the stereo output. It would come out through the mono legacy audio output. So that's good that they've done that. So they are basically the inputs on this side here. We've also got a pin for a PS2 keyboard connector, which I'm not using on this particular build, but it's interesting to know it's there. Now on this side here, we've got this 4-way connector. This is the JTAG header, by the way, so this is what you would use for cable-based firmware updates. I'm assuming this has got a kind of a wishbone interface so that you can use a software-based tool to upgrade the firmware as well. But I've put a header on there. These are unpopulated, by the way, when you buy the board. And I had a little bit of, I put a little bit of thought into how this was going to fit. Obviously, I've used right-angle connectors in the hope that that's not going to actually impede on the bottom of the keyboard. It shouldn't, because the VBXE, obviously over at this side here, is actually a bit taller at the front, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. But what I was really worried about is the keyboard flex cable, which is going to come out of the adapter that goes into this slot and go across here. But we'll see when we try to close up the lid. So I've gone for right angle connectors here, and I've got this block here, so all the inputs are coming in here. This is the analog stereo output. We've also got a ground pin, and we've also got a digital audio out. Now, I'm not going to get the chance to play with that with this particular build, but the digital audio out, I'm hoping what that can actually accomplish whenever Sophia 3, the HDMI or DVI digital video adapter for the Atari 8-bit, eventually materializes. I'm hoping we'll be able to feed digital audio into an HDMI video port in the back of the machine. I don't know whether that's going to work. I think this is the way this is described in the installation manual is with an SPDIF connector. So whether that uses the same standard as HDMI audio, I don't know. And if you have any idea about that, whether that's going to be possible or not, please let me know in the comments. Anyway, oh dear me, talking is still difficult for prolonged periods of time, but I'll keep going. So that's the analog audio out, and this should be sufficiently low profile to fit under the keyboard. And there's the low profile Ultimate 1MB sitting right on top of that Harton connector here. It's great, so even if you need to change the battery in the future, you can just pop this cable up, pop the battery out, and that's the only maintenance you should have to do on this board. I'm going to upgrade the firmware because obviously these are sold with the stock firmware now, because I don't have any licensing agreement anymore with Lotharek. He decided to cut his nose off to spite his own face last summer after I dared to criticise some of the internal mismanagement that was going on with a few projects. So we'll have to upgrade the firmware there, and here's VBXE cores as I mentioned earlier on. Now if we look at the back of the board, well, there's the DIN 13 connector I've put on there. That's gone on quite nicely, nice and neat, and I've used the slots that were vacated by the lugs from the RF modulator. I've used them to feed the cables through to the other side of the board. Now when this DIN 13 connector gets fitted to the board, some traces get killed on this particular machine, the 600XL, because they're just in the way. There's just no way around that really. And in this particular case, I took out 3 traces. I knew this was going to happen. So I've used a slightly beefier wire for what is possible. I can't remember whether it's a ground or a 5 volt. It's probably a 5 volt rail. So I've used a beefier wire for that one. And these two here, I just used thin uninsulated wire and rerouted the traces around the bottom there. That's turned out quite well, and I've sealed it with lacquer so that these wires can't possibly move, because they're only adhered to what's left of the end of the trace there. And obviously if these moved or they got bumped, it's liable to rip the trace off the board, and we don't want that happening. So that's what I've done there. And then obviously we've got all the signals going to the DIN 13 connector, and there's the stereo audio coming in from the other side. This is our sync wires, this composite sync going to the composite video pin there. There's our Luma hookup, there's our Chroma hookup, because as I said before, this machine doesn't have those signals out of the factory. And I haven't actually tested the legacy video. I've powered this board on to make sure it works, and it does, but I was using the VBXE output. I need to test the legacy audio to see what that looks like. It should look good, because I've removed the offending capacitor down here just to the top left corner of CD 4050 that makes the video look horribly blurred. And that's pretty much everything done. Obviously we've done the 64K RAM upgrade. I've tried to route the wires as reasonably neatly as I can. As far as I say, topically, as far as I can tell, everything worked. So I'm going to put the case back into the machine. The only thing that I might have to do after the fact is lift this VBXE up again and replace 74 LS08 with a 74 F08 if the machine has problems working with any of the Side 3 revisions, because the customer does have a Side 3 cartridge, more recent version of Side 3. I believe it's a Go-Win FPGA Side 3. So we better check that as well. But the first thing I'm hoping is that the lid will go down. Alright, so let's pop it in. Obviously we're going to dispense with the shield. The shield is not going back on this machine. And I've also remembered to remove the capacitors on the data in, data out and command lines on the SIO ports, so it shouldn't have any problem with high speed SIO. Now this is, as I say, this is going to be the fun part, because we need to put this flex cable back in here. I've removed this horrible sticky tape that was on here. That was the only thing that had decomposed on this computer, the masking tape. There's some tape still on there, but it's not doing any harm. It looks fine. We can leave that alone, I think. I just want to bend this out of the way a little bit. Right, so we're going to get some serious cursing if this doesn't go together. It should do, surely. Everything's so low now. Let's find out. Let's push this in. Oh, God. And please shut, please shut. Yes, it shuts. Oh, thank God. It just clicked shut, and there's nothing's strained, nothing's pushing on anything. That's good. Yeah, when the screws are in, that's going to sit really nicely. No problems. I think it's just the flex cable that's, as usual, resting on top of something. But yeah, it's a tight squeeze in these 600 XLs without doubt. So I want to have a look at the legacy video first. I'll just bring the monitor around so you can see it a little bit better. So there we go, stock video. We've got a bit of vertical banding there actually. And of course I forgot to plug in the S-video connector. So what we're actually looking at here is composite video. And composite video doesn't look too bad. Got a little bit of banding there, but let's hope that goes away when I put the proper connector in. Right, so that's S-video. We've still got a little bit of vertical band in there. Could be the cable, of course. Could be a number of things. But it's reasonably sharp, and it doesn't kind of have the overdriven chroma that we get sometimes with Spectre AV. So that's perfectly serviceable S-video in my opinion. Well, now this is quite interesting. What I've managed to do here is get rid of the jailbars that were on the legacy video signal. The jailbars, for those who aren't familiar with them, are the sort of luminance variations that manifest themselves as stripes down the screen essentially, and they're often referred to as jailbars. And there have been lots of theories about what the potential causes could be, refresh cycles for RAM, all sorts of stuff like that. But one particular forum member at Atari Age MyTech. He made a big thing about cable shielding in relation to jailbars and how to get rid of them in a thread a while ago, a few years ago I seem to think. And he did quite a lot of experiments using different double shielded video cables with generally pretty good results, but not absolutely consistent across the board. So really it's not entirely determinate how you get rid of these things. But anyway, in this case I was looking at this machine about 20 minutes ago, and I thought I wouldn't expect this level of jailbars on a 600XL, which normally just has really lovely video straight out of the box as soon as you remove that one blurring capacitor and wire up the necessary signals. And here I was with jailbars, so I had a closer look at the situation anyway, and I'll show you what I've done. So this is the video circuit anyway, and over here we've got the two crystals. The main crystal, which isn't used anymore because the VBXE is now providing the clock signal, but this one down here, I think it's this one, that one's still running, and that provides the color burst frequency for the legacy video. This top crystal is disconnected now because I've removed a transistor and a pull down resistor to completely isolate this pad down here at the front, and that's where the 3.5 megahertz clock signal has been fed in from the VBXE here. And of course the VBXE has two crystals on it, PAL or NTSC, and they are, I think, 14 megahertz crystals because the VBXE needs that to drive the video. The RGB video, that is. So anyway, what I had here is I've got these two wires. This one's ground at the back, so pin 1 of this header here is the clock output, and pin 4 is ground. I mean, you could have connected ground anywhere, but I mean, I've just kept them together as I usually do. Now this wire here was going right through the middle of the video circuit here. I thought it would be, wouldn't it be cool to just tuck it neatly between these two rows of components, and then the signal, the clock wire, went to the front here and this one went here. And what I found is that if, and the wire wasn't terribly long, and if I pulled it back so that it went more to the back of the video circuit there and sort of hooked it round this transistor here out of the way of this section, the jailbars went away completely. So what I've done is I've taken off the original wire, I've put a longer piece in that I can run right out of the way of the video circuit, right round the front here, as far as I can get, really, away from the video circuit here, and that's done the trick. It has completely eliminated the jailbars on the legacy video output. So that's got to tell you something. So obviously the video circuit itself is very sensitive to electromagnetic interference, in this case from the actual pulsing clock signal. So we'll give you a bit of a closer look at the picture here, as close as I can get really reasonably with this camera. And this is S-video, of course, and you can see it looks lovely and sharp, and there's absolutely nothing, no stripes down the screen. You can verify this. We can go into a few different graphics modes. I mean, you can see a kind of a little bit of a green on the self-test screen, but that's pretty consistent with what I consider excellent 600XL S-video. And this one you can't see a thing, so it's just certain luminances and colour hues tend to show up minor imperfections in the picture. But I mean, I think that's a really nice S-video signal. Really nice. I'm perfectly happy with that. My personal 600XL, the stock video, is something like this, and it's absolutely fine. I see absolutely no need to fit, certainly Spectre AV. UAV, that's going to take things to the next level of clarity because you get improved heft on characters and pixels with UAV. It's really excellent. But not entirely immune to jailbars depending on the machine or how you wire it up. But totally happy with that. I would expect the customer to be completely happy with it as well. This is exactly what I expect to see when I fix up the video on a stock 600XL. So I've gone ahead off camera and updated the Ultimate 1 megabyte firmware. Right, so I think we'll try side 3 now, and I've got a few to try here. got a few side 3s to try here, and what I'm going to try is the one that the client actually owns, which is the Go-Win FPGA, the most recent iteration anyway, that you could buy before it was discontinued. So let's give this a try. It's got a SanDisk 32 gigabyte SD card in it, so let's have a look. Ah, that's good, good. Working so far. Have we got any crap in the file list? Let's have a look. Very good, excellent. Actually, I've forgotten I'm looking at S-Video here. I know this thing's got VBXE in it, but this is almost every bit as good in terms of quality. Very happy with that. So yes, things seem to work well. Obviously we'll do a read-write test, and we'll do an RWCRC later on as well. We'll just quickly run the read-write test to make sure that we can write to the SD card, no problem at all. So we'll do an RWCRC later on just to check for any errors with I/O. And the other thing I was pleased about, very happy about, is that when I updated the firmware here, I've put the VXS3P2. I mean, VX is just the VBXE plugin with the NTSC palette built into it, which is optional. You can turn it on there. I mean, it's off. I mean, it's a PAL machine. Why would you want that? But anyway, it's in there. I'll leave it in just in case the owner can find any possible reason to utilise it. But so we've got VXS3 Side 3 plugin, of course, and PokeyMAX 2. So this is the PokeyMAX plugin that was developed when PokeyMAX 2 first came out, and I'm delighted to find that the API has not changed at all by the looks of it. So what we've got here, we've got the chip type, which I think is a lot bigger than the previous ICs on the PokeyMAX. So it's a 128M 16QF. Now I think quad Pokey. I don't know what these stand for. It'll be written down somewhere, no doubt. But so that's the firmware anyway in the configuration of PokeyMAX. So it's picked that up, no problem. And if we go in here in the device control menu, we've got everything unlocked completely. So it's got dual Pokey. Well, we can go quad Pokey if we want to, single, dual, quad Pokey, Covox sample, dual SID, dual PSG, and all the other stuff. It's not an exhaustive set of options that you can set here, but it covers most of them. You can use the PokeyMAX, the standalone PokeyMAX tool if you need control over anything that's not covered here. But yeah, all works. We'll double check, of course, that stereo is working. I'll just run U1MB, which should pick it up without too much trouble. If I've got U1MB on here, which I have. There we go. And it should say stereo detected, and if it does, we are done. Yeah, stereo detected. Fantastic. So there you have it, basically. That is new in the box Atari 600 XL in absolutely immaculate condition, which we have upgraded sensitively, I think. Just to give you a look at the back, because I don't think you actually saw the back, what I did to the back of the machine. So there's the new hole where the RF modulator used to be for the DIN 13 connector for the VBXE jack. And I mean, there's nothing too offensive about that, is there? I mean, it's more use than the RF modulator. So personally, I don't think this spoils the character of the computer. But everybody's going to have a different view on that, I suppose. Apparently the client pulled some of his, and I haven't got the screws in here yet, of course, but apparently the client pulled some of his co-workers about this particular machine. An opinion was split on it. Some people thought he should have left it alone. Some people thought he should have left it in the box and not touched it. But other people thought that if he's going to use the thing, he might as well configure it the way he wants it so that he can get the maximum use out of it. Because that's what they're for at the end of the day, they're there to be used. So yeah, so obviously you're going to have different opinions on this. My personal attitude is have one of each. I mean, ideally have a nice boxed, perfect condition example of whichever machine you're interested in. and get another one to upgrade it. But you probably want one in nice condition that you're going to use day to day as well. And of course it remains to be seen whether this one will stay nice, because since it's been in the box and polythene wrapping for 40 years, we don't know what it's going to do when it's sitting on a desk day in, day out. So maybe it's going to go yellow, we just don't know. But at the moment it looks absolutely splendid. And it works perfectly. It's given me no surprises, this computer, at all. I did take my time over it, partly because I wasn't feeling too well, so I was just doing the work in fits and starts. But yeah, basically I put all the upgrades in. I did the usual trick. I did test it this time, of course, before we started to make sure it worked, but I put all the upgrades in and I didn't power it up until they were all done. And when I powered it on, everything worked, which is what you want, basically. A few more jobs like that would not go amiss. But yeah, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you, as always, to the video sponsor and to my patrons especially for their continued support. And all being well, I'll see you in the next video, so bye-bye for now.